here. We're going to start, my friends, with the typical and usual disclaimers. You guys, I know that you guys who've been in the space a long time know the drill, but for you guys that are new, number one is any of the thoughts, ideas, philosophies, or aberrant notions that we share, they are a product of our own mind. This is for anybody who comes up here and speaks, and not affiliated with the Logos brand, identity, movement, or namesake in any manner or form. Remember, this is an idea space and a community space. Which brings me into disclaimer number two. This is indeed a community space. So if you guys at any time want to come up and have a chat with us about the relevant discussion, please, by all means, come up and do that, especially if it has to do with Logos circles and maybe you're interested in booting up your own Logos circle initiative. Cool. Number three, this is my favorite disclaimer, belongs at the top of the list. If we happen to talk about any type of cryptocurrency project or any other type of blockchain related project, please don't take this as financial advice. Do your own due diligence. Don't ape or YOLO into some random shit coin, right? I always think this is just a given now in the space, but it's just so fun to reiterate every single time. Cool. All right. The next piece of this is, again, this is a Logos community space, and this is, I'm going to break this down for you guys if you're new in here. This is kind of the order of operations. Number one is we're going to have all the Logos circles leads or movement operators from a local area provide their updates and downloads, what's happening in real time in the field, right, with Logos circles. And then after that, we kind of move into a community discussion segment. We don't have any like prearranged content. And we kind of used to, we used to do that at Logos circles, but we want to kind of have it community driven in terms of the conversation. If not, Chair and I and the Logos circles leads will we'll push a conversation with whatever is on our minds. But you guys, again, at that stage, will be welcome to come up and chat about what's on your mind, preferably related to Logos circles or some kind of philosophical principle that is more broadly related to Logos and Logos generally speaking. Very cool. All right, so Chair, did I miss anything there, friend? Feel free to add anything additionally before we move on. I don't know about you guys. I can't hear him. I don't know. Can you, Roxana?
Nope.
Perfecto. Cool. All right. So again, I'm not here to put some individual on the chopping block per se. I will resort to said activity if I have to. But any of you guys want to volunteer and discuss what's going on in your local circles or your community, by all means, right now is a prime opportunity to do so. Who wants to start?
I am happy to jump in. I feel like it's been a little while. So let me share some updates from Lisbon. Over the weekend, we had a community event in Quinta de Mocho. So Quinta de Mocho is the social housing neighborhood we've been working with since last summer. And kind of the objective of this event was bringing as many people together from Quinta de Mocho to hear what types of initiatives they would be interested in participating in for their community. And yeah, there was over 100 responses, which was great. So yeah, really we want to hear back on what people in the community in Mocho want to do. So as a circle, we can then support them. So the community garden that we're working on is an example of this. And hopefully in the next few weeks, we'll be starting that. I feel like I've been saying that a little while, but yeah, just excited to kind of read the feedback from the community and see what else we can support them with as a circle. But yeah, the event itself was amazing. There was karaoke, there was a stage with some amazing rappers from the community were there. There were like traditional games, traditional food, lots of kind of different activities for the kids. And we were also shooting some interesting content for some very cool upcoming project that Logos is working on. So yeah, look forward to sharing more about that soon.
Nice, Amelia. Thanks so much. I still feel like one of the Lisbon Kintinamashi circle is definitely going to be one of the trailblazer operations as far as the Logos Circles movement is concerned. So really happy to continue to see progress and excited to hear about this, more about the video footage and the project too. So super cool. Yes, sir, Chair.
Just a quick mic check. It works now, doesn't it?
You're golden, my friend, and you're welcome to go as well. Why you have the mic? Oh man, I
sure, yeah. The issue has been that I always turn my microphone off for all apps. 0 permissions on my phone for anything, really. And then I forget to turn it on when I join a space. But I do recommend that turn all permissions for camera and microphone off for all apps by default. Or don't. It's your life. The Los Angeles Circle next event will be April 13th. I am scouting the appropriate location at this time, but there will be a Luma out just a little bit later today. I believe that's a Monday, April 13th, 2 days before tax day. We should have a good group. It will be on the west side. I am taking my cues and am doth inspired by, as such, the Quinta de Moshe group that was present at Parallel Society's day one. They laid out why they need such an event, as Amelia just described, because actual community outreach is required to make a real impact in a community. And it dawned on me, I realized, it hit me like a ton of bricks in a freight train in a tunnel, that we'd done 0 community outreach as the LA Circle. We'd done some other very positive things that made some powerful positive milestones. But in terms of actually reaching out, connecting with, and understanding what any of the communities in the greater 30 million person population of Los Angeles might need or can get assistance from the Logos Circle, none of that has been done. So we're changing that immediately. Monday, April 13th is the day. And as more details hit me, I might update in a little bit, but more or less that's it. If you have people in Southern California, send them my way. Send them to the Logos Circle. 2 weeks from today. 2 weeks minus 1. 13 days is the day from today. Thank you.
Nice, sir. Thanks for the update. Don't worry, I very strongly suspect you guys will have some very nice community outreach initiatives. Sweet. All right, looks like we have Roxana and then Mariana.
Hi everyone. Been a while. Good to see everyone. I love I love recognizing faces in the crowd, but I also like seeing new faces. I'm very excited to bring a bit of the updates from yesterday. Yesterday we held the 7th Logos London Circle. We changed a bit the approach, particularly because this circle was filmed. And we had interviews as well on site. I was conscious that probably a lot of people would feel a bit put off by the camera. So what we did, we had a little game where people that didn't really want to be in the in the filming bits would wear a cap or just face with their backs, and then those that wanted to be in the recording and were happy to speak up, we distributed for those who were interested in participating. We distributed a couple of pages on a data-backed overview on um, the current situation in England, particularly on the growth engine, the public spending, and the state performance. It was based off State of Britain UK, which is it's a public database. It's a public website with various databases from different publicly available sources that gives an overview of where we are in Britain right now. And some of the points, it was interesting to have more of a data-backed conversation, to be fair. Some of the points we raised were tax being at a historical high since World War II, debt being at approximately 95% of the GDP, a flat productivity since 2008. We looked at the public sector productivity that was unclear. We looked at the physical infrastructure that is crumbling. We looked at the treasury spending, especially on covering essentially past bad decisions like the Bank of England losses on the QE bond sales. We looked at the government increasing R&D spend on AI and data centers. So we had quite an interesting discussion around these inefficiencies, with the next step being scoping out issues to expand on some of these items and to target more local campaigns and parallel pilots. And it was a bit different than the usual format, where the usual format we would just do the usual roundtable and kind of pick a subject and try to bring it to the table. We tried a few times with raising an actual campaign format. I feel like out of all, the idea of having your data in front of you printed out, so you have a source of truth and then discussing based on that, brought some interesting perspectives and people that would normally not really engaged a bit more yesterday. So it was quite interesting. I think probably we'll do something similar in the future where we can pick sort of these projects in terms of bringing to the masses the data that is available, and engaging in some of these websites that are being developed by different people in the community, in the Anglo-Futurist community, but also in just concerned citizens that want to improve something in the UK. So yeah, we'll see where it goes from there. We had scoped out a few possible campaigns, and we just take it forward.
Yeah, it sounds like you guys are definitely hitting on some of the key governance failure modes in London. So good on you guys on that, Roxanne. I'm really glad to hear. I think, yeah, and some of these pieces that you mentioned are something that we could come back and discuss, generally speaking, during the discussion phase if we want to put a pin in it. If not, we can always take it a different direction. Just something to consider here, because what you brought up is really, really important. Sweet. All right. We also have Mariana here as well. Welcome, Mariana. I guess the Mexico circle is what you probably have some info on.
Hi. Can you
Hello
hear
and
me?
welcome. Yep, loud and clear.
Okay. Sorry, I'm putting my batteries on the laptop. Yes, well, Mexico City's Logos Circle is meeting next week, April 8th. And we are going to install and run our Logos node. We're going to do that workshop, and then we'll have further discussions around two possible winnable issues. We are drafting in a paper. We want to do a parallel voting system where we can have a citizen or a sensor of what is happening around elections to compare with the official results that are not very aligned to local sentiment most of the time. So we want to build that. And also we are thinking on a sort of application where at the municipality level, you can track your government's budget, but not only that, where like a sort of decentralized organization at the municipality level can present complaints on how this budget is allocated. And if you find there are problems in the streets or with the public lighting or water supplies, etc., you can make an anonymous, but at the same time, not anonymous, a collective complaint, and press the municipalities to fix those public services. So we are discussing these two options, and then we will, once our document is more or less comprehensible, we will share with the Logos Forum and then have the feedback from all the public on how we can do that or improve or change or suggest new ideas around these two winnable issues. And that's kind of the update on what we are working on. Yeah, that's more of announcements. More of an announcement than we are working on what winnable issue now. So thanks, Sterling.
You're absolutely welcome. Thank you, Mariana. And 100%. I mean, and I feel like this is especially true in Mexico and local communities where a lot of it seems like a lot of people just generally distrust the establishment or the established powers, the established financial institutions. So Mexico seems really ripe to me for the creation of any kind of parallel, quote unquote, institutions or parallel activities. So parallelized voting seems like a sweet technological step in the right direction for a local community. I really like that particular direction. And you know me, I'm a huge fan of just Mexican culture in general. And I have a very strong sense or feeling that you guys will be able to enact some action very quickly, just because folks who get excited about something in Mexico, I feel like they're very much dedicated to driving that cause as far as they can. Super cool stuff, Mariana. Cool. I think, by the way, I want to take just, yeah, no worries. Sorry, if you had another thought, welcome to share too.
Oh, no. I was saying thank you for your comment.
Sweet. No worries at all. I was about to do two things here. Number one is just a brief reset of the room. For you guys who have joined, thank you for joining. We're in deep, right? We're we're in the pipe with Logos circles. We have several people, several folks, Logos leads, who've got to share information about their local circles and their local networks and what's happening on the ground. The other thing that I want to mention is that Chair and I are also in the studio as per usual. I forgot to mention that early on, so you guys are more than welcome to check out that feed as well. But we definitely appreciate you in the space here with us on X as well. So very cool. Let's see. We have a request. Oh, it's Amelia. She's coming back up. Sweet. I do want to, so I think right now is a good opportunity as well. If there's anyone else, I know there's some other circles leads in the room. You guys know that it's not an obligation to come into the room and give updates, especially if maybe there's not anything directly relevant to give at this time, but you're more than welcome, of course, at any time to come up and chat about your logo circle and what's happening. Let's see, we do have a request. Cool. Let's see. Looks like we have, oh, maybe that was just a glitch. Okay, maybe not. All right, cool.
Girl requested.
Yeah, you approved it soon. Sweet. All right. Well, we do have Girl on the stage now. If you would like to share, welcome, Girl. Good to see you again.
Hi everyone. God, that was way higher than I expected. Yes, we've got our April Circle back at the house. I'm absolutely delighted and have managed to book them for the next 6 months. Confirmed. So really happy about that. Yeah, that's really great news. And massive shout out to Marco because he has been helping me. I'm on my phone and I can't always access everything. And so he did all of my the pictures for me so that I can now load them up and get like marketing, as it were. All of the space, the Porto circles coming up. So that's really cool. Thank you, Marco. What else? Oh, I've got no idea. But yeah, pushing on through, going forward, and all about. Actually, I do. Maybe I've got a question for everyone. I was just wondering, following on from Chair, what does everyone do personally in this space for their grassroots stuff? What's everyone doing in our community? You know, not necessarily through just Logos circles, but what does everyone do volunteering wise or grassroots stuff? I just wondered. And I can kick it off with a yeah, I do like a few bits, and I just wondered if anyone else, what everyone does, because it'd be cool maybe for us all to share that. But other than that, that's my updates. We're still cracking on, loads going on here. I do my laptop. I know I bang on about me not having a laptop on the time. My laptop is in Hong Kong and I'm just trying to get it to Portugal currently. If anyone's got any help with that, that would be amazing. Thank you very much indeed.
Thanks, Girl. And in terms of your question, we can definitely come back to that, I think, in just a moment since M's up here, but and we can talk about maybe what all because I really like that question, by the way, what we
Thanks.
all have done or do locally or just generally speaking, I think would be
Yeah.
very relevant.
Thank
Cool.
you. Look forward to it.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
darling, and Chair.
Always a pleasure. We got Roxana with her hand up real quick.
I'll do it after M.
Perfecto. All right, M, you are up to bat, my friend, with your update.
Well, hi everyone. How are you doing? I just woke up from taking a little nap because I was like very, very exhausted. Wanted to shout out, hi Celia, hi Mariana, hi Roxana, hi girl. Just came out from a call actually with girl, Civic Monkey, and yeah, Muriel as well. I was talking about yesterday's circle for the first time in like since the foundation of circles with Roxana and Marianne and sorry and Marina. Um, we had over 40 people registered on Barcelona circles, but we only had 9 people coming. I mean, it's cool because 8 out of the 9 people were completely new to logos, so it was kind of an interesting interaction. We've been talking about traceability, privacy, some concerns related to possible futures on the European Union related to surveillance. And we ended up having as a last thought that a workshop related to privacy and privacy tools would be a good idea. But um, to make a proper report, like always on the forum, I had to create a Telegram group chat with them and keep them engaged in this group chat so they could write down all the ideas and interact with each other. So yeah, I will be making my report by tomorrow, like more proper with a better structure. So at the moment, all I can say right now is just this. And yeah, let's say that now I have learned a couple more things on how to create a better circle, how to filter out like the best way to do marketing to this circle, I guess. And yeah, the next time we will have more visibility and even more people interested on logos and giving feedback and, you know, keeping things stick to the matter. So yeah, that's it.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Em. Glad to see everything moving forward, and also that you guys are collaborating on a call and discussing the forward momentum and the trajectory and all the good shit. So thanks for that. Appreciate that update, Em. Sweet. Well, I think at this stage we've probably covered all the new information and got all of the intel downloads from our circles leads. So we can kind of start to transition, unless anybody has anything else, into the discussion phase and the tech phase and the philosophizing phase of the space. Cool. But I think unless Roxana might have wanted to move it forward, or maybe she had something related to circles. Either way, Roxana, your hand was up, so you are next, my friend.
I was going to answer girl's question, but I will answer it right away. I actually had a call with Mariana just about 3 hours ago. We talked about this particular subject, the logo circle numbers. I feel like sometimes we focus too much on getting the room full of people instead of focusing on getting a group of people that are aligned. So I don't want you guys to feel like you're not doing well because, I don't know, 40 people signed up and only 9-10 people showed up. It's fine. It's a small group. Meet more often, do something together, build something together. I think at the end of the day, you'll get where you want to go. It doesn't have to. You don't have to focus on just filling up a room, because this is not like the regular crypto meetup. We're not there to have an audience. We're there to have a roundtable discussion.
Yeah, we can mic drop on your comment there, Roxana. I'm gonna concur with you 100%. And I know this phrase is a bit cliche, but thinking about quality over quantity, I think is really important, right? Because not everyone is going to agree with the logo's vision, or they're not going to see the vision, or whatever the reasoning is. This is also that idea that, and I pretty strongly agree with Seth Godin when he talks about this idea of minimum viable audience. Right? So a minimum viable audience is that group of people who are really aligned and committed to taking a project to the next level and being devoted to whatever that cause is. So I think this is a really important consideration that Roxana brings up. But she's right. Don't feel discouraged just because you don't get the numbers. I think a lot of times too, when it comes to just the raw numbers, it's easy, and this isn't just speaking to what we're working on at Circles, but also generally speaking, people get tied up with vanity metrics and shit, right? They get focused on just like trying to like just grow the thing as fast as possible. But sometimes that is not the relevant metric, or that's not the metric that involves the qualitative piece of what we're working on with, is the people connections, the relationships being developed, and the folks with their philosophies showing up to these logo circles with their physical presence, right? I don't know if anybody has a further comment or.
I do, if that's all right. What I was going to say, it's like maybe it's better to think of it, or not better, just another way to think of it, in fact, is that you're trying to start a gang, right? You're not trying to start a pop band where you've got like a lead singer. You're trying to start a gang, and the best bands in history have been a gang. They all went wrong when there was one lead rock star. Great example is Madness. they have lasted and are still going because they are a gang who like all get on and like they like muck around together, have a laugh together, you know, and come up with ways to do shit together. It's about meeting and gathering like-minded people that are going to be in your gang and go for it. That's what I'd say. You want to start a band, you're starting a band of merry movement makers. And that's what I was going to say to that. Get t-shirts, what we, you know, matching tattoos.
Well said, girl. I 100% agree. It's just kind of funny, you know. Not everybody is built for the revolution, right? So one way to put it, because this is the things that we're doing here to doing 100% potentially involves some risk, right? Because we're trying to actually retool or reshape or rethink civil society, and in order to do that, you have to have a bit of gumption, a bit of spine, and a bit of a bit of fortitude, right? Without that, we're not going to be able to push forward and actually create change. That's also why having people who are devoted to this particular cause are really key. So 100%, it kind of is like having a band, because a band, especially if it succeeds, becomes popular, is kind of a revolution. Maybe there's even some novelty being produced within that context. I really love the analogy. It's fantastic. Sweet. All right, cool. I think so do we can go around and we can kind of discuss this topic and just let the conversation flower in whatever direction that it wants to flower in. But this notion of, what is it that we do regularly that could be potentially looked at as grassroots activism, or just generally a kind of activism. Anybody else want to take a stab at it? By all means, they can.
I think Roxana has her hand up. Maybe.
Yes, I do. I like getting involved in the local community, especially probably not that much when I was living in central London, to be honest, but ever since we moved a year ago, kind of have a forever home and all that. My partner and I and my stepdaughter as well, we've started becoming more involved in the local community. The first thing we do is we pay a very small tax, which is about £120 a year, to ensure that a plot of land that has a lot of trees and green does not become land that you build houses or flats on. So there's a trust set up to guard it and have it like a green space for the neighborhood, which is really nice. So all of us in the area, we contribute just a little bit. It's not a lot of money, and it's nice to know that you have this public good, right? And it's used widely by everyone. We do our summer parties for the neighborhood. We do barbecues. The kids play on the grass. You know, you can just go and chill in. It's just nice. It brings everyone together. The other one is I've discovered I have a very deep love for farms and picking my own vegetables and fruits. So that's kind of a really cool summer activity that you can do in the UK, especially it's just a small drive outside of London. There's so many farms, and you can just go and pay a small fee and pick your vegetables and support the farm. So that's also nice. Finding local restaurants that are ethically sourced with fruits and vegetables and meats that are local uh, as well. That's something that we like to do. And we also like to protest because the area we live in has a very nice park. However, um, there are forces that want to take a portion of the park and privatize it for some events and activities, although they already have an established area for that. So just to maintain the park as a public good, we have a lot of campaigns locally, so we mostly just take part and get involved and talk about it in the pubs, and make sure that other people that are locally based know about it.
Nice. Thanks, Roxana. I have some comments on what you said, but I want to go around and we can do this like full tilt first. Does anybody else want to share theirs?
Yep, I'm happy to. So I take the older ladies in my community, I take them shopping each week to the supermarket. I volunteer at a kitchen whereby we make food on using the local produce from the local community, and then we take it up to feed the homeless in Porto. I also, like a micro one, I've trained my dogs, and every day on the local beach we clean up rubbish, me, Hot Dog and Doobie. And I also obviously I do everything to do with activism for like the campaign for safety in numbers, and go on marches and get out there doing that. Yeah, thank you.
Nice. Not sure if you got a fresh hand there, Roxana, if you want to comment on girl or if that's legacy hand.
Legacy hand.
Sweet. Thanks for sharing. Well, I'm happy to share as well. And then we also have a new speaker up here, Bumps, who's a friend of mine and a friend of ours, really. So here's the thing. It's hard for me to describe my work in the local community because I'm such an international person and do so much traveling, and it's also hard to divorce my work with Logos and the Logos movement from my personal life, because I've been an activist for around 15 years, right? An activist educator. Any of you guys can go back on my Facebook feed. I've been an anti-war anarchist for most of my time in the libertarian space, libertarian community. I don't really describe myself as an anarchist per se anymore, more like a panarchist, but that's another discussion. So I've spent a lot of time educating people away from these systems that are super broken, corrupted, violent, decadent, and trying to figure out ways that we can retool society toward a more of a libertarian type of end, or at least a society where people have a choice in what communities they want to move into. So I've been writing articles, blogs, creating video content, and I've been doing this for a long time, and I will continue to do this on a variety of different levels. So really just helping Logos spread this mission of creating new kind of communities based on a grassroots movement is something that's very near and dear to my heart, and it really is impossible to divorce it from my personal life. It really just goes hand in hand and has worked out quite perfectly. So yeah, that's just a bit for me. You guys, anyone else want to share as well before we'll also let Bumps jump into the convo?
Yeah, hi. I just landed back in New Hampshire in the United States recently, about 3 weeks ago. I also am more international, the best I can be, or at least a snowbird, but I am part of the Free State Project here. I found them through activism at the State House, fighting for my right to smoke and grow my own herb. And later in the years, I went to Honduras, and I lived in the free city of Ciudad Morazan, and I helped Mark Edge with his property in Utila, Honduras, which unfortunately at that time missed the mark for the free city ZETI, the Zone for Economic and Educational Development. But we have hope now for Honduras again, with the structure change in the government system. But so when I go out into the world, I always tell people about the Free State Project. I have a great, a lot of appreciation for what this community does. And in this community, we did have a great split in the Manchester area. And last night I attended an event with the Free State Party. So it's not Free State Project, it's the Free State Party. And, they're booming and their ideas are going. We had Jeremy Kauffman and oh, I can't remember his name right now. But anyways, we had a friendly conversation debate last night, and they're going to keep doing that. And it's kind of a little split from or a fork from the Free State Project. So I always promote the Free State Project. I agree with go where you're treated best, like the nomad capitalist, but also Mark Edge also promotes locating your own liberty. Like if you don't like the snow, don't go into New Hampshire, you know? And that's pretty much where I'm at. I'm a snowbird mostly now. But I am his manager now, and we are doing more interviews and, you know, looking to show people like my friend in Uruguay and what he's doing there with his food forest and his new community center, or in Costa Rica, where my friend Human has a 77-acre eco village with 25 partners in it. You know, there's so many out there, and I'm trying to find them and visit them, which I have. I've been to the Uruguay one, the Costa Rica, Honduras, and match people up where they can find their most, you know, relatable type of lifestyle. That's all for me right now.
Nice, Bumps. Thank you so much for sharing. You're reminding me, I've been meaning to have maybe you guys, even Mark and whoever else from the Morazan community, can come on to the Logos Thursday space as a special guest at some point. That'd be great to have you guys, and we could discuss the current work that's being done there as well, because I'm pretty sure he's also still involved. Aside from that, though, I have to give you credit too. Something that I don't, and generally we don't talk about or hasn't come up enough, is the Free State Project in New Hampshire, which I think is a really great example of a parallel society that is forming in the context of the U.S. and has been around for a while, right? This isn't something that's new. The Free State Project has been ongoing for, what is it, years now? So
Yeah, it
having a
was
deeper discussion.
founded 2001, and the state was chosen 2003 or so, something like that.
Absolutely. Yeah, thanks so much. And by the way, you're welcome, of course, into the Logos chat and up here anytime to speak with us. You obviously have a lot of experience too in the space, and you totally understand the exit mentality that a lot of us harbor, where we 100% believe we should go into the communities. We should be able to opt into the communities that share our values, that harbor similar philosophies, and then if something changes or if we end up not liking those communities, we can exit, move to the community that suits our needs on a voluntary basis. I think pretty much all of us here share that mentality. Not speaking for everyone, but just saying generally speaking, that's been my perception. Sweet, thanks. Anyone else on the stage want to share their consideration of Girl's question?
You know, the best that I could come up with at this point as we prepare for the next meeting is reach out to the people I know are most connected to their individual communities that are already part of the circle, and picking their brains on what they think is important. It's kind of setting the context for the next meeting. And that's just like people who post enough about being in the streets and doing things that kind of give me a sense that they know what's up. Oh, we lost Sterling on the video in the studio, but it's okay. But yeah, really just like organically DMing people on my side. I think I've recognized that, you know, beyond some big brother, big sister program participation, like being a big brother for in that program. Otherwise, I don't have too much community outreach experience personally. So would like to create an environment where those who do can sort of rise up and take the lead, because I think the one thing I'm trying to avoid is taking the lead on things I shouldn't and taking us into holes that perhaps we shouldn't dig into. Maybe that's just a personal problem.
It's there's a very fine line whenever you get heavily involved in your local community, especially if it involves talking about it publicly or putting things out there, right, that are quite provocative in terms of discussions, but also anti or critical, not anti, but critical of what the government or the local councils are doing, or how the money, what was the trace of money, how are resources that are being deployed, how are they being spent. So I totally understand your point of getting into the wrong kind of circles or going too deep into it, which is why we need tools that can protect our privacy or can offer some sort of anonymity where you don't feel like you can't express yourself 100% because someone's watching.
That's the other thing, is there's definitely always someone watching, where we are here in Los Angeles, and we are very quietly one of the most corrupt and broken not institutions, let's say the government apparatus, both hyper local, more wider local at the city level, a little wider at the county level, certainly at the state level. The corruption is so rampant, it's very hard to quantify. I would reference the LA water wars of the mid-century, last century, and even earlier as some of the required reading in terms of understanding how corrupt the forces are here in particular, but I think that's basically the same all over the world. So it gives me great concern and pause about some things.
Yo, Chair, what you just said struck a chord, and it reminded me. I have an anecdote. So just the other day, Cece and I, we were out at it's like a cocktail lounge, and we met these Iranian Londoners, and they were talking about their just general experience being in London. And I asked them a question. I said, or actually, I made it was a comment, because they were talking about how they really loved London so much, and they love the UK so much. And I said, you guys are okay with the level of surveillance that you have to deal with just on a general basis? Because the UK specifically is like in the top 5 next to China and the US in terms of the density of CCTV, the density of surveillance, and also the surveillance regulations as well. And when I told them this, they really they hadn't thought of it before. These were probably people that were in their late 20s, early 30s, and they didn't even have a conception of what they're having to deal with in that country. So I do think the thing that I thought of is, it is incumbent upon us as folks in the space who are activists, who are trying to retool civic society and create a better world, having an understanding, and then leveraging that understanding of surveillance in the form of education is also extremely important work to be done at quote unquote top of funnel, so that people can start realizing that they're first of all, there is a problem. But I think so many people too are propagandized to believe that not having privacy, or even not having anonymity, is something that's good, like something that's part of the common good, when the reality is that it is absolutely diminishing our personal individual liberties and even our collective liberties on a massive scale. So trying to generate as much educational content is really important as well for pushing forward. It made me sad when when we were having that conversation with these folks. Luckily, though, they did. The end of the conversation, they were suddenly they were very much interested in wanting to learn more, and hopefully they're able to move into a direction that is more okay. So maybe there's an issue. We should be involved in these communities, etc. Go ahead, Chair.
I just wonder about the time that it takes for people to process for themselves hard news, or like hard realities. All right, so there's a very book, it's a little bit off. This is a little bit of a sidetrack, but I think it relates. It's a very, very good book called The Franklin Cover-Up, written by John DeCamp, who was a state senator in Nebraska, Vietnam War captain, infantry captain, had like 1,000 people under him. He was the first and I think still the only U.S. politician that successfully campaigned for a seat while abroad, deployed in war in Vietnam. Somebody ran the campaign on his behalf, and he was voted into the state senator position. Okay, so that's so a serious person, a lawyer, an infantry captain, a very serious person. He was embedded with the Operation Phoenix CIA, the person who was leading the Operation Phoenix efforts in Vietnam at the time. He was his, like, one of his army captains that he was working with. So a person who's very serious and very deeply involved in things. He uncovered one of the most disgusting and sickening crimes that was completely covered up. And that is all covered in the Franklin Cover-Up book. Okay, one other subject that they covered in the book, which deals with ridiculous crimes against children, is the amount of time that it takes for people to process the fact that these types of abuses even exist and to the level that they exist. And why do I bring this up specifically? Well, for those types of abuses, it takes about 3 years from the first time somebody hears about the fact, like, oh yeah, this is what's happening in the foster home program. These are the types of things that these people have to go through. And when they hear these factual things, it takes 3 years for them to be able to come to grips with it, because it's hard, it's scary, it's disgusting, it's evil. And you don't want, we have not, most of us have not been brought up with this as a reality. So it takes a lot of time for people to start to notice things and do their own research, and it takes about 3 years or longer. So when we bring up corruption, we bring up the impact of surveillance on your life. When we talk about the effect that it has, most people, as they hear it for the first time, you could almost mark on your calendar, I'll see you in 3 years, when you've had time to process all of this. I had a friend in 2021 where we were arguing a lot about the lockdowns and what the ultimate objective of all of it was, and I was a very angry and impassioned person at the time. I'm a lot less angry than I was then, but I'm still pretty fucking angry. No, I'm just kidding. We kind of went down that rabbit hole, more the corruption side than the abuses side, though I think we covered both of them. And then we didn't speak until about 3 weeks ago, like right after we came back from Lisbon. Might have even been in Lisbon when I got a text from him saying, hey man, it was mostly like, I've come around to some of the things that you were saying, and I'm sorry we argued so much. I'm like, dude, but that was like that was like a 5-year tale. So I'm going through this process with my own family and other close friends who do not give a shit about what's going on, both like logo circles wise, or the greater geopolitical situation, or the hyperlocal situation, and the effects of corruption on our own lives and the people that we love, the waste, the blatant, just swine-like waste that goes on with resources, and on and on. Like, it takes a long, the point is, it takes a long time for people to realize the situation that we're in. So we have to give them that time. I don't know if we have 3 years for everyone, but it's something I'm considering, is like, as we broach these topics, especially as we pierce into new areas and new people who are less exposed to the reality of government corruption, both local and wider, and the real effect that it has on us, we have to give them some time to let it process for them. And I think most of them will come around. Just they might be scarce for a while.
Well said, Chair. I think I have a few thoughts on this as well. Speaking of thinking about it taking time for people to be able to process this, you're absolutely right. There may be some ways where we can help to like to decrease that time frame. I think a lot of the reason why this is the case too, why it takes so much time to process it, is because of just the tremendous amount of propaganda that people are currently bombarded by in our societies. I'm thinking about, so there's a psychologist who wrote a book called Waking Up. It's by Charles Tart. And in the book, he just makes the case that generally most people throughout their daily lives are totally asleep. They are just going through the motions in an almost automaton-like way. And as a result of that, any like new kind of information that hits them is processed in a way that is either just totally rejected by the default mode network, right? This is that in cognitive psychology, the mode that most people are in most of the time, where it's their frame of reference, their personal I, and the way that they generally look at the world. But that gets very solidified as they move through life. And so being able to break out of that is tremendously difficult, right? I mean, I think also this is why people like Terence McKenna have often said that culture is not your friend, because the default mode network almost becomes like a cultural operating system that we just have to function off of as we move through reality. It took me a lot of really crazy experiences younger in order to help like really come out of this particular mindset. And I think sometimes what's needed is a shock to the system. I'm not here to speak to what that shock necessarily is for each individual person, but that does seem to help people come to terms with the situation relatively quickly. And speaking to your point about a lot of folks not very easily processing what's happening around the world geopolitically, I think that there is a psychological ramification to the current geopolitical climate that could also help people continue to come around. I think that what this means is extremely positive, though, friends. Logos is positioned in such a way to catch a lot of these folks who are going to come out of their hypnosis, out of this, what Charles Tart called this consensus trance, where then it's like, boom, here are the solutions. Here are the people who share your values as you've come to realize the current state of affairs around the world. And this really puts us in a beautiful position. But at the same time, we're also not here to say that we have all the answers or that we have all the truths. I mean, part of the whole movement, at least in my opinion, is that we can just finally choose what kind of communities we want to be part of. We have more optionality in terms of the values and the philosophies and the ideologies that each one of these communities have a tendency to harbor. So really, we're in the process of completely retooling the way that we do governance and the way that we do coordination and the way that those mechanisms shape out over time, right? We've talked about this a lot in past episodes too, this notion of not only mass decentralization around the world in terms of communities, but also just being able to flatten some of these communities and to really stop this centralist push to have more of a top-down sort of operating system around the world, which has led to a lot of the zero-sum games and a lot of this political nonsense that we see everywhere. So you really got the brain juices flowing there as well, Chair. Great monologue and commentary. Anyone else who wants to chime in or even take the conversation wherever you want? I think this is definitely a really important discussion in terms of analyzing the situation that we find ourselves in.
Go ahead, Chair.
No, I was gonna say you have your hand raised.
Okay. Yeah, I guess for me, something that's something that's proving to be more impactful than anything else right now is a conflict that is framed as a regional conflict in the Middle East right now. But it has sort of a ripple effect on several localized economies, and is generating this kind of localized economic crisis across import dependent or energy sensitive countries, right? So we're looking at inflation surging in some of these countries, currency pressure, shortages of fuel, supply chain disruptions. Some of the governments are responding with austerity measures, like Egypt, for example. Egypt is responding with an energy and austerity measure. Um, Currently, the country is going through a strain, a massive strain on inflation and its currency because the oil import bill has doubled. Right. So what this regional war is doing is it disrupts the oil flows from the Strait of Hormuz, which is a big topic right now. So this puts a lot of pressure on governments to respond with some sort of measure, right? As I said, it can be an austerity measure, it can be a reserve management measure. Some of them are deploying emergency funds, some of them are going through financial reforms, some of them have a sort of like a crisis command structure to protect their economies and to address the local level crisis. So Egypt is one, right? You may have noticed that there's this kind of energy conservation movement going on. It's a mandate from the government, right? Work from home mandates, reducing fuel allocations, early curfews, and some other cost saving measures. Turkey is also experiencing localized economic crisis right now, right? So the central bank of Turkey is privately discussing gold for foreign currency swaps in London right now, and trying to tighten liquidity and higher cost funding windows in order to um, stop the inflation of the Turkish lira. Because the Turkish lira has hit an inflation rate of 31.5% recently, which was just last month. Pakistan as well. So Pakistan is looking at a major austerity package, right? So it's looking at a salary cuts for state-owned enterprise employees. And these are like 5 to 30% cuts, 50% cuts in official vehicle fuel quotas, 60% of government vehicles off roads, 4-day work week for offices, ban on new vehicle purchases and foreign trips, and all of that to essentially save funds for public relief. Russia is also impacted by this, right? It kind of pushes Russia into capital protection moves. So Russia wants to keep precious metals inside the country across those volatile energy commodity markets. And there's been a decree signed on banning exports of gold bars larger than 100 grams starting May 1st. Iraq is also pushing to go cashless. So it has a cashless mandate by July 2026. In the situation where you have a large, a large rural population that doesn't really have access to banking, and the public trust has eroded significantly. Then South Korea is also doing something to protect its local crisis. It's more around oil price and supply chain shocks that are impacting again the inflation, the energy security, the financial markets, and vulnerable households. India is also doing something in terms of the local crisis, right? So the conflict is pushing up oil and fertilizer costs in India, which is again a risk for inflation, and it impacts the export sector. So they are, if I remember correctly, they're establishing an economic stabilization fund, which is valued at approximately $11 billion for essentially to to be prepared for any supply chain disruptions or shocks. So the thing is, we have all these measures, and they're very much short term, right? And these measures treat a regional conflict with massive global repercussions as a short-term conflict, which may not be the case. It can actually change. It will probably change a lot of the things that we're used to, and it's probably going to have a major impact quite long term.
Yeah, we have a new speaker up here, but I want to respond to you, Roxanne, because you said a lot of really, really important things. I want to just frame this a bit differently too for the folks that are in the audience. That we've talked about this in the past, but what Roxana is also getting at here, I think, too, is that this is really what happens in a very globalized world, a world that is very deeply interconnected in a lot of different ways. Because what we're currently having to deal with already, without even just thinking about like governance failures, poor political maneuvering, and also warmongering, is just the fact that we're already embedded in a polycrisis, right, of epic proportions. So all the current situation does with all these new shocks to local communities and local economies, this just adds to the cascade dynamics, right, that we're already having to contend with in other areas. I think this is one of the reasons too why, as a species, we really can't afford to continue this path of really, self-annihilation through warfare, because already the stakes are way too high in terms of the surrounding crisis scenarios that we're currently beset by. Let me just mention a few of those real quick, because we're having to deal with this now uh, while dealing with a war that adds compound interest to all of these issues. And I just mean compound interest in the sense of civilizational toll, right? In the terms of human toll, physical ramifications, and also all the issues that Roxana mentioned around local concerns with regard to energy and supply chain shocks. So thinking about it like this, okay, we have already threats for the near term emergence of artificial superintelligence, right? We have risks in synthetic biology and biotech for the creation of novel organisms, synthetic viruses, or other disease vectors. We have issues right now with potential climatological change. Planetary boundary issues have largely been breached at this point, and now we have all of this this cumulative effect of everything else happening. This is, and again, I want to always, we're not here to black pill you guys or go down this path of looking at a black pill, but we are trying to say that this is the reason why logo circles exist. This is the reason why we have a focus on trying to rectify local governance failures. This is why we want to move the dial forward toward a better future where we can actually create a situation that's ripe for human flourishing. And I think this is exactly what we need in order to salvage our species. And I want to be clear too, this isn't just something that Logos is working on, right? We're not just some island out there. There's a lot of people that are in this regenerative space as well that are looking to solve some of these problems, to find solution vectors. And so 100%, we have to understand the problem that we're facing, and we have to develop a response that allows us to catch the fallout from these current crisis scenarios, and then to start retooling civil society as we move forward. So I just wanted to also contextualize what Roxana was saying, but she's 100% correct. Cool. So we do have Majestic on the stage. I want to give you the space to chat about what you want. But before I do that, I'm just going to take a brief moment to reset the room. We are a little over an hour now in the space. We're going to go probably for roughly another 20-ish or so minutes. Really appreciate you guys being here for Logo Circles, getting the download, getting the intel, and also working together with us to create a better world and to help evolve our current stance as a species, while also defending the cypherpunk and the crypto anarchist values, understanding that privacy is really important, human liberties are important, economic well-being critical. Cool. All right, thanks. Welcome to the stage, Majestic. Happy to have you up here. Please, by all means, if you have thoughts, considerations, welcome to it.
Thank you. Thank you. I always love these spaces. Good afternoon, everybody, or whatever time it is in the world. I just wanted to pipe in a little bit. I love what you're saying. I just want to tell you a little bit about myself. I'm healing. And there's something said earlier about the consensus hypnosis. I feel like I've lived a great part of my life in that hypnosis, going after everything I'm supposed to go after and just falling flat on my face time and time again, because what my soul wanted to do was to connect with source, to heal. And I didn't have any support in that. And so it's like I had to go rogue. I had to go out on my own and sort of separate from everybody, in my family, and, just go down my own path. And I, got into a lot of things I wasn't supposed to. And then I came out of it, and I've been healing ever since, right? So, like, my whole thought process is like the world is, a great part of the world is under like a spell, if you will, and they're doing things because they're supposed to. They're going after, the job that makes the most money. You know, they're going after all these things, but they're not taking the time to realize that they have traumas and that they have, things that they haven't had time to address. So it's very difficult to take on the world's issues when you haven't dealt with your own. So that's kind of where I'm at, is that that's the most important thing for me, is to reconnect with source, reconnect, like realize who I am, and just grow from there. And I'm working on building, podcasts. I'm working with, collecting like-minded people, and I like the statement of, quality over quantity. So I've been finding, as I've been speaking out, about what, who I am and what I want to build, I'm finding like-minded people to collaborate with and to get some of the best philosophers or spiritual teachers, and personal testimonies of how healing has taken place, or ways to heal, techniques, actual things to do from the time you wake up in the morning till the time you go to bed at night, and all of that. And so that is really exciting, to actually take all of this like harshness, and make something of it and turn it back and help others, because I know there's a lot of hurting people, um, a lot of lost people, a lot of confused people, and a lot of numb robots. Like they're just numb. They're just not feeling it at all. And I feel like my life's purpose is to help as many people as I can with the wisdom that I've gained and that I am gaining, and other like-minded people and their wisdom and things like that. So, I'm interested in, what you're doing, and, maybe creating my own circle here in Washington State. So yeah, I'm very interested. I'm just really trying to expand and grow and learn as much as I can. So thank you for having me. I love what you guys are doing.
Yeah, Majestic, no problem. Thanks for coming and sharing that too. By the way, probably I don't think we have time to fully go into this and flesh it out today, because I want to give room for anyone else who wants to speak on this as well, time. But what you mentioned, we have discussed in different contexts in a couple of the other spaces, because you're 100% right. People are hurting. There's a lot of individualized suffering, and this is one of the pillars at Logos that we have an interest in. It's this idea of the meaning crisis, right? So we're in the midst of this massive crisis in meaning, where a lot of people feel isolated and alienated. There's a rise in mental illness, mental health concerns, right? So depression, anxiety, even the really awful conditions around, or at least symptoms around schizophrenia. All of these are on the rise, and a lot of that is a result, we feel like, from dislocation and the fact that people feel like they've lost agency too, where they don't have any connections with their family or friends anymore. This is especially true, at least I'm speaking for the Western world. They don't feel like they have connection to their family and friends. They feel lost in the world, and they don't know what to do. Now, of course, it doesn't help that they're controlled by the algorithm online, right? They have their dopaminergic systems completely hijacked by this system. So trying to find a way for people to reconnect with their communities, with the people in their communities, and also to reconnect with nature as well, I think is also tremendously important. This is also why we've seen this movement in the Ethereum community around localism as well, right? And around having a regenerative mindset toward nature, toward the communities, toward finance, and toward a number of different institutions. So with 100% certainty, anytime you come into this space, you'll constantly find us too discussing these issues and trying to figure out ways that we can help, rebuild people too in a lot of ways, at least in terms of their psychology and their feeling connected to a community. Because this is just me personally, I can't speak for the whole community, but I think it's very clear that having a very strongly connected network is something that we strive to have as a human being. We're not isolated individuals. Most of us, just human beings, generally speaking, are social animals. We have a social psychology, and being able to be attuned to that is really important for our mental well-being. And of course, we could get into the psychological literature around this, but I do like the way that Terence McKenna sort of couches this notion of this being like a birthright, like a species-wide birthright that we're trying to reclaim. So anyway, we could get more deeply into that. We do have a little bit of time here. I want to give anyone else on the stage an opportunity to speak, and I do want to remind you guys, if you're in the audience, you're more than welcome to come up and engage in the conversation at any time. So.
Sterling, we had a question from someone who I don't see in the audience anymore, but I think it's worth touching on if I can find it. All right, give me one moment here. All right. Mixedrill Compute asks, excited to be here, though you're here no longer. He says, would love to know more about the testnet. And is there any future incentivity? Is that a word? It's the word of the day now. As Web3 users loves to know this to make big contributions. I think I see where you're coming from, Mixdrill. Well, testnet v0.1 is live. And I synced my node yesterday. I claimed my testnet funds. I believe I am staking in a provably private way as such, and thusly. Running a node is rather simple, and there is no minimum stake for anyone to participate in validating, or proposing rather, blocks. What that means is that on a rather light machine, you can participate in the validation of the network and the consensus of the network, as well as earn those, what was the word we used? Incentivity in the rewards that you get for staking. It is exponentially even easier than it is on Ethereum, and it is certainly exponentially more private. And so beyond the social incentivity provided by the opportunity to participate in and or start your own logo circle, the big news is testnet v0.1 is live. You can begin running nodes. You can begin staking, which happens automatically, by the way. If you're running a node and you claim testnet funds, and they're in your wallet, they will begin staking automatically like magic. That's the technical update at the moment. And if you would like further technical updates, we do the Logos Dev Club every week, at least once a week. We do the Logos Technically Update stream, which, did I say technically? We're keeping it. The Technically Update stream for weekly updates is usually on Wednesdays, but goes once a week as well. So stay abreast of what's going on there. And these are two glacial melt rivers that are right now sort of winding down the hill separately, but they're about to conglomerate into one massive roaring tide. And to the ocean we will flow. Burn the fish.
Burn fish, indeed. Nice. Cherry, you actually reminded me of something too regarding the tech, something that I feel the need to speak to here as well. So I made a post recently on my timeline critiquing the Ethereum ecosystem. I want to be clear before I say this that I'm not against Ethereum in principle, especially not against the community. I actually have a lot of friends in the community. We have a lot of friends here in the community. So I just want to make sure you guys have this disclaimer before I say what I'm going to say. Okay. So I think there's a lot of us here who definitely disagree with the technical situation with Ethereum. There is some technical debt there. There's limitations to privacy, even though the Ethereum Foundation recently released this, their mandate, which says they're trying to move it in more of a privacy preserving direction. I think that's great. I do think because of the technical debt, it's going to be hard to get there. Anyway, I'm not going to go on about the Ethereum thing. The point is, somebody on my post actually said, oh, I can tell that you are just trying to shill your L1, right? Because it just offering a critique of Ethereum. I want to be really clear about something too with regard to Logos. Saying that this is an L1, of course, they just did that as a way to probably get really to trigger me, right? It was a trigger word. But here's the thing, this isn't just an L1, right? Logos is a movement, and the technology, of course, is a technology stack, something that's totally novel, right? In terms of the way that a lot of the different kinds of quote unquote blockchain ecosystems have ironed themselves out. So this is an attempt to just retool civil society. That's the the one term that I will continue to use, and that I think a lot of us use in the space. And the technology is really used to provide affordances for that, right? To allow people to deploy governance, unstoppable governance applications and tools and applications that allow them to craft their communities. And this is why we have such a strong local component. And this is definitely why we share this localist mindset this regenerative mindset that has also been proliferating in the Ethereum community and other spaces within quote unquote Web3 as well. So I just wanted to be clear on that. And Cher is 100% correct in his assessment of the tech. And thanks for the explainer too for V1.
I'm very happy that in the backlash of the new Ethereum mandate and the seeming requirement of official EF people signaling or otherwise signing that mandate, which is about 36 pages full of Remelia bullshit. And I stand by that. I encourage everyone to look at Banteg's thorough work, exhaustive work in exposing exactly what's going on there. And the fact that Remelia, the Miladies, have taken over the Ethereum Foundation is sad, hilarious, and predictable. There is a ton of research that has been done on who these people are and why you don't want them anywhere near you, your friends, your children, or family. And not necessarily in that order. And the fact that Vitalik proudly rocks a Milady, I think, it tells us all where we're actually at in terms of the Ethereum Foundation at large. It's
Yeah, I do
crazy.
want
I really, go ahead, sorry.
Sorry, I just wanted to mention something too, Chair. I didn't mean to cut you off. I'll let you continue here. Just a brief mention too. One of my biggest concerns of the Ethereum ecosystem in general, again, not pointing out any single individual, but it seems like the narrative around privacy coming back and being an important thing has been circulating in the Ethereum community, and people are talking about it. And also the term cypherpunk has kind of reemerged in that community. But the question we always have to keep asking ourselves is that just a vector for the hijacking of that kind of terminology, and also the hijacking of privacy? So this is like a massive concern to me too, with regard to the Ethereum community, right? Especially people who are like so focused on defending Ethereum for the sake of defending it. Anyway, I just wanted to add that into your thought, Chair. Go, please continue.
Yeah, no, the Ethereum Foundation borrows heavily from Logos. The fact is that Logos core contributors come from Ethereum, still contribute heavily to Ethereum. Nimbus, which is like has 15% of the consensus um, validator sort of pool. Like Nimbus comes straight out of Status, which Logos comes straight out of Status too. So there's a ton of influence on the Ethereum Foundation, because I think a lot of people don't understand that, you know, the core, the nucleus of Logos, it goes all the way back to Status. Status came about because those who started Status were early Bitcoiners who recognized the need for something like Ethereum, were heavily participating in the bootstrapping, launching, and early activity on the network, wanted to build Status, ran into a ton of technical barriers because of the nature of Ethereum and its lack of following through on shipping the protocols that were defined in the white paper. Okay. So then logo, like the eventuality of that became what is now the Logos movement and network. So all of a sudden, Ethereum, as of like last week, announced that they're going to do like the Ethereum economic zone, the EEZ, which I mean, Logos has been writing about economic zones and the zones structure within the Logos network for years now. So there's one. And I had another example at the top of my head that I lost now, but there have been, I tweeted about it yesterday. I'm like, Logos coined the term zones long before the EF did. And there was another one. So like basically like the talking points of Logos have made their way into the talking points of the Ethereum Foundation. Now, people who are closer to people who are actually involved in the EF, or at least were a few months ago, people who are inside, quote unquote, the EF, are reporting that they do not have as much faith in that there will actually be any follow through on these privacy topics, as much as there's lip service being paid to them, because it's the hot topic right now, and Zcash is up 4,000%. Oh my god! But as Sterling mentioned, and I'm not really qualified to talk about, but there is a ton of technical debt. Like those who are qualified to talk about it reiterate a lot that it is difficult to bolt on privacy into Ethereum after the fact. There are incredible projects like Railgun that offer some levels of privacy for sending tokens, using DeFi, like a lot of like the token centric side of things. Railgun is the solution. And fuck privacy pools for reasons I can get into later. But Railgun is cool. And but at the validator level, running a node level, there is no privacy. And there probably won't be for a long time. Everyone knows who the next block proposers are going to be, about 32 blocks, not about, exactly 32 blocks or 9 minutes before it is their turn to validate those blocks. So it is very easy to target those validators to censor or otherwise not process transactions, period. And then there's all those OFAC, there's all the OFAC censorship that eased up after the Tornado Cash drama quieted down, but it's still very much happening. So all I say, like, all I have to say is like,
Thank you, friend. Yeah, you started to break up on my screen. You started dropping way too much truth, bro, and then my whole screen glitched, and then it vanished into the ether. Not that ether though, right? Okay, cool. So I think what I'm so glad you're here, Chair. You just dropped so much truth too, brother. There's there's a there is a lot of concern, and I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole here or do a monologue, but there is definitely a bunch of concern with regard to Ethereum, especially thinking about it in the context of status, right? Which I'm glad that you brought up that history. It's really important to discuss. We can get into that more next time. Before we start, before we do the final wind down, M has had his hand up for a good while. So I want to take just one last comment or thought here from M, and then we're going to wind her down, man. This has been a fantastic space. Really enjoyed this.
Oh, well, since I have my hand raised, I had the chance to make some fries for the dinner. So here's my question. Um, I dropped on the general chat on Discord some links related to what Chair just said, related to the announcement from the Ethereum Foundation of the economic zone of Ethereum. And I wanted to know, like, um, is it a new concept, this economic zones on blockchain? Um, was it like, I don't know, a scraped idea from Ethereum that we took for logos and they then retook and announced recently? Or how like when did that idea of economic zones was launched?
Well said. Well said. Yeah, and by the way, that it is good for me to reiterate and rehash here that any of the ideas that we share are definitely our own and not necessarily associated with Logos brand. I think you guys know the disclaimer, and you guys know Chair's voice too. So hopefully we're good on that. Cool. I want to just mention real quick too. I've been working with the Logos organization now with Logos for 3 years, and I recall working with Nomos. So I think I can even specify with some degree of accuracy that zones were being talked about at least 2 years ago. The R&D team discussing zones and the paperwork for that, like Chair said, likely go back a bit longer. So I don't know I don't know the context around the Ethereum. I saw Chair's post as well. I don't know the context around Ethereum working on zones, or even if they were referring to something similar or not. But anyway, wanted to leave it at that. Okay, guys, really fantastic space today. I am at a point personally, I'm here in Lisbon. I'm at a point personally where it's time to eat and probably time for a glass of wine, right? It's about that hour. So I do want to appreciate everyone who contributed to this space. First of all, Chair for being an amazing co-host and helping keep the rhythm and the flow of the space moving forward. Thanks so much, brother. I want to also appreciate the Logos Circles leads. Of course, we wouldn't even be here if you guys weren't working on the ground on the things that you're working on. So we had Amelia up here, Roxana, we have M, we had Girl, we had Mariana. Might be missing somebody. I think I caught most folks though. Again, thanks so much for coming up and sharing the intel that you have from the ground. We're going to keep this movement going forward. We did speak a lot on critical aspects of our society today. We talked about geopolitics. We talked about some really shitty things that are happening around the world, but we also turned that around and talked about how we're moving the dial forward, how we're trying to generate more freedom, retool civil society, and generate more human flourishing rather than the opposite. We're not trying to destroy, rather, we're trying to create. Thanks so much, my friends. We will see you next time. You guys who are all part of the space, again, thanks for being here, especially those of you guys who stayed the whole time. Much love, and until next time, this is Logos, Chair, Logos, Roxana, all the whole crew up here, out. And thanks again, Majestic, for contributing to the